introduction. It's a pleasure to be here in California. First time for me, first time for MID, I think. You see our building here in Nuremberg, Germany, somewhere in Germany. And we talk about a data-driven company. It's a very complex issue. And what we will focus here very much on three specific topics. I mean, how can a company come from be data resistant to be more really data aware or data driven, which means data first and the first challenge. So decisions are very important for that. It's a very complex area where decisions can make a good role between processes and data. And but the state of the art we observe at our customers is that we have all making the first steps to a strategy. We have a lot of input from BPM, ERM, and so on, but we could get the clue where. And as you can see, the key can be, our approach is to combine strategy, the design of decisions with DMN, and of course, the combination with data, which fuel the decisions is very important. And decisions is everything, it lacks in classical concepts of enterprise architecture, lacks the object decision. We talk a lot about capabilities or procedures, but not of that. And we invented, or we suggest, a new thing called the enterprise decision map, where you can really put your decisions you have in your company along the value chain. We see above an example from a car rental, and you just put it on the levels of the decisions. And we call operational decisions really decisions that are really based only on one issue. So one insurance claim and so on. And we see also, we heard it in the morning before, we see a lot of importance of business events which influence these operational decisions, where we're triggered, we just do such things and so on. And what we also have a very important layer here, we see above technical decisions, because every important decision, every important operation decision, every time has normally also a plan. You plan your manufacturing, you really plan everything, and you have everywhere interconnections where. And here's an example, the easy example, we'll see a little more later on, a complex example, how it works together. And therefore, it's very important how you can discover decisions in your organization. And you have a lot of you have a bottom-up approach. You can do it more top-down from the strategy. But with this approach, you can really fit the decisions together and see how it works. We have heard a lot of decision automation. We want to focus with presentation on the part of predictive ML and how you integrate that. And that's a special thing because all the work in the machine learning area is done by data scientists, and there's a lot of black art happening where you give something back, you give data to them, and they give you an algorithm back. And PML is quite a good example how you can reuse the work of a data scientist and using the input data, the algorithm that has been proven where as useful, and we show how you can import it back into your DMN environment. So you get this sort of feedback, and you can use it in the environment again. And so if you have now your decision described as a PML construct, the next challenge is just to connect the input data with the new data, with your data models. Where does the data come from, which is important for your algorithm. And so you have the chance to just complete the traceability between data, decisions, and processes. So that's why we bring it. So where you need a modeling environment where you can do DMN and BPMN, where we have aggregated views, and where you can really map the whole traceability between data and decisions. And with the short track, we'll show you our tool called the Innovator. It's a modeling tool with multi-user roles. We have supporting a lot of notations, open standards like BPM, DMN, Archimate, and so on. So yeah. Oh, there's a conflict. Conflict of what? I don't know. So now let's switch to our presentation. Now let's have a short look at the innovator. I don't know. I guess nobody knows, has ever seen the innovator. That's not a problem. We are a company mostly engaged in customers in German-speaking countries in Europe. We have some sort of customers here in the States and Australia, but my main focus is Europe. And our tool innovator is pretty old. Its first versions are from the 80s, starting with classical UML case tool. But over the decades, it evolved more and more to a complex tool with enterprise architecture notations, with BPMN, and of course, since the last time with DMN and so on. Yeah. So it's a classical Windows client-server application, and where we can go into, and we have a lot of things to do. So from the bird's eye, and when we talk about enterprise architecture, we can also have a lot of business model canvas. The classical thing to get a bird's eye view on the strategy of a company or the business model of a company. And I can make it a little bit narrow. We can start in. It's nice to do. What we can also do with Innovator, you can describe how the strategy looks of a corporate. But if you go right where the thing about a data-driven company, you can't get really a clue because of the decision is missing. So we just made something like that, the enterprise called the enterprise decision map, and we implemented it. It looks a little bit different to the PowerPoint. As you can see, we have here the car rental example. You can see above on the horizontal line the value chain of our car rental, and when you have grouped down where, as you can see a little more of the 3 levels of decisions we can see. And what we can really see now, you can arrange all the decisions made in the company. You get a pretty good overview, and you can discuss with your customer what are really the important decisions in the company or organization and how we arrange it. And for this case, we look especially at we can look at the fleet management here. And the biggest decision or the biggest goal of a fleet management is to ensure the capacity of the vehicle. So, of course, if we have enough vehicles present so that the customer can rent them. And this follows, of course, a plan. Yeah? The company plans how many vehicles are needed, from which type of vehicles are needed, and so on. And we find where the first decision, and of course a big decision inside the fleet management is to choose to buy new vehicles, perhaps. And they say, okay, I have to increase my capacity for the fleet management. I have to buy new vehicles, so we have a decision to be made. And of course, there are certain events that are really important to the whole fleet management core process, which means that sometimes vehicles need to be maintained. So we are not anymore cannot be used for rental. So this is an important business event, and of course another business event might be just the damage. So if a vehicle needs to be repaired for 2 weeks, the capacity of my whole fleet is reduced in that way. what we can do with Innovator is it's just an analog mechanism like a process landscape. We have a good overview of the important decisions of a company, and we can now really go drill down with this feature. It's very easy and drill down to the DID, to the requirements diagram. So this will get a better overview on that. So the Innovator, of course, we went a little bit more here, supports DIDs. Yeah, check it. And we can see here now the decomposed of the graph here. We came from the enterprise decision map, drilled down to the appropriate DID of the decision. We can see here the top level decision. And of course, you see the whole classical thing of decomposing the top level decision through several sub-decisions. We can see all the things we have, input data and so on. We can arrange our business knowledge models. We have classical also with decision tables and so on. And we can do in a better way. So, oops, sorry. Go back to the DID and so on. So we can redo a whole process inside where. And what we favor from our experience of our customers, we have talked about this morning also about PMML. Is it a substitute for a more business-like approach with business rules? Because business rules are much more under control of organization and the programmers. Machine learning is a little bit much of a black art. We don't know what really comes out and comes up. We favor here really an approach where we decompose the top level decision and find perhaps a sub-decision which can really be a really good candidate for machine learning. Well, something like prediction is often a case where machine learning, predictive technologies are really useful. And you can identify them, and you will say, okay, here about is a sub-decision which just describes or determines the forecast, the utilization of a car. So the case here is we have to maintain a car, and we really want to find the best date where we can do this. Of course, I want to maintain the car at a day where I think that the utilization was not needed for a customer. And so I can try to find out of historic data an appropriate machine learning case. And this is typically done by a data scientist in his tools like KNIME, or you use scikit-learn in the Python environment, and does an event build. So what we can do, I have to change here, the roles, here you have a role concept. So every user has a special role inside Innovator, and everything can, the rights and what he can do, it can be configured where and so that. And we have a lot of possibilities to import or export sources. Of course, we can load databases, we can read BPM and DMN diagrams or sources. And but we developed it with our plug-in technology. So the Innovator has a complete, very large open API where you can program with Java or with Microsoft tools new plugins. And we have developed here a PML plugin. So we go straightforward. You go ahead and select your PMML. The data scientist has found a special algorithm, and jetzt habe ich, sorry, very good. Wrong decision. You just should click on the right decision. So a little bit frantic. and he parses the XML to find the input data defined where. He shows up and he just put in here appropriate time. So with some bookings in the last years, with sometimes it just appends also the XML. You can have a look at it. So it's a very simple PML file. You can see we have here some data input fields. You can see it's a neural network defined where you can define several algorithm types in PML, of course. Could be also a decision tree and so on. And you think that. And we import the data we find useful here. You can see he discovered, we can see he added automatically to the decision that this is a PML. He added this is a neural network and so on. So we have here now a complete documentation about it. So what you can also do is, now what is the question? We have imported PMPL. We have identified 3 input types for this decision utilization forecast, and how we can do track. So bookings in the last year and so on, or is it a vacation time when we wanted to maintain the car. Relevant inputs, how do I find it, how do I trace it to the existing data models. And with, as normally, if we can here, we can specify here. Normally in Innovator we can specify for input data the variable type, so we can do all the stuff of data typing where. And in Innovator we do this with a so-called structure definition. You just know so. And of course you can also the type of diagram I can do. As you can see, I have this. Here I have all the data about the vehicle. You can see it's modeled here with all its attributes. It's a hierarchical concept. And this is the way we do it in Innovator to handle the data inside the DMM class, vehicle class, and so on. So we have the first step to the data. But this is only just the interface to DMN. So data comes normally from other applications or from existing applications, and we also need to document with. So the classical thing here is what we can do with a class diagram. The classical one, we can also support enterprise relationship, entity relationship diagrams, and so on. But we have chosen here a class diagram, and what we can do here is some kind of mapping here, or you can also do this graphically. Yeah, here we go. Make it a little bit larger. And as you can see, we were using here a technique called the whiteboard diagram of Innovator. We have shown here it's not really a special mapping diagram, but with whiteboards you can drop a lot of elements from different notations in one diagram, and you can draw links between them. So we get a pretty good overview of all the stuff, how it works together, and you can use this very good in order to do here some part of the mappings. And you can see here our structure diagram for the vehicle, and you can now add here, as you see, some links to the appropriate attribute in the class diagram. So we want to have a really have a clear picture of where does the data come from. You really don't only see how a decision is being made, and we can really trace also the data source, and we have a lot of knowledge about it, and can therefore really go forward to build our solution and a complete documentation also of data usage and so on. So yes. So as you can see, with Innovator, you can handle the bird's eye view. We can integrate it with a lot of notations. We can drill down into with decision requirements diagrams into the decisions itself. And another strength of our approach is that we can have built up a complete traceability between the decisions and also the data that we are used in the corporate data models. And we see at our customers that a lot of customers a little bit the kind of re-entry going back to corporate data models. We're trying to set up new somehow large initiatives to get a complete picture of the data, just to get a good foundation for digitalization of processes and the whole enterprise and so on. And where do we get? Okay. So pretty much 20 minutes.
Great.
Thank you very
Elmar.
much. Thank you for questions.
I had a personal bias going into this demo as I'd used an early version of Innovator in university, somewhere between 10 and 30 years ago.
Okay.
But the other area that interested Bruce and I when we reviewed this was the fact that with decision modeling, process modeling, executable models that exist outside of that there are these myriad data structures and data models that often don't come together in the environments, and the idea of taking a data-first approach to this. By the way, Jonathan, we'll keep the demo up. Taking that data-first approach to that in the context of DMN and in defining more robust analytics that we're getting out of automated decisions was appealing. So I'm not sure what the question is in there, other than I'm describing what was of interest when we saw this. To rephrase that as a question, but
that's a statement. Up to now, it's a statement.
You used PMML as a proxy for DMN, or as a way to create an initial structure around DMN?
So we favor really just to describe sub-decisions with PMML. So we believe also, we had it in the morning, you can't just think about the top-level decision and say, okay, I go to machine learning and set everything is done by the machine. So we really favor about a clean design and looking at what can I do really with decision tables, what can I express language in a good way. We have seen in the last presentations a lot of good way, and you see we can really go far with automation. We really favor that, we're pressing. But there will be certain types of sub-decisions. I really believe that it's better to go to prediction and say, okay, we have a huge amount of historical data, and we can find really good patterns inside. And it's a very efficient way to go in this way. And so really we favor that approach to decision management. And as you have told me before, it's very great. We can import into Innovator, re-engineering a lot of databases. Up to now, really Oracle, SQL Server, all the stuff, and so we can really integrate in the Innovator the whole data modeling view. So we can really model where the data comes from. It's not an input data from the DMN side. We can really it's with database field, and with database, and with table, and so on. Was really missing, and it was really practical for our customers because we often got stuck in the pilots. Where the data scientists deliver an algorithm and said, hey, great algorithm, it works. And when the real work begins, when, okay, he needs this type and this type of input type, and the data, the work begins, and Innovator can really help here.
Other questions? No? Elmar, again, thank you.
Thank you.
There is a theme of sorts in the remaining sessions this afternoon, but it's not by country of origin, as may otherwise imply. Next up is Signavio, who has, yes, correct? Yes, thanks. Sorry, I didn't have my thing in front of me. I was just going by memory. So, Signavio, who also